why are we time blocking? What are you trying to accomplish? I think it's actually just to be honest. It's to do the very unsexy work of budgeting and to transparently look at reality and plan accordingly. And this is why, in contrast, filling your to-do list with an unreasonable amount of things that you think you're going to get done in the day as a means to motivate me, therefore I'll go forward and get more done, you're just delusional. By playing that little game, you're actually really putting yourself at a deficit. You will get so much further with consistent, modest execution.
As humans, we prefer the path of least resistance. We crave convenience, the payoff without the price. But when our lives revolve around comfort, it doesn't deliver. Living in perpetual comfort leaves us weak and asleep. This podcast is an invitation to flip that script, to choose the unlikely path, to get the life you really want through voluntary discomfort. This is Strong and Awake. I'm Dane Sanders.
So Dane, this series that we've been in is about overcoming everyday obstacles. The one that keeps recurring is this theme of, I'm so busy, I'm so overwhelmed, I have no time, there's too much to do, I have no focus. This long laundry list of things that kind of revolve or orbit around this theme of time mastery or focus or attention.
I think that the dynamic you're describing, you're busy all day, you're reactive. In moments where you have time in your hands, you're pulled towards the shiny object. In moments when you're flooded with activity and responsibility, you're drawn towards overwhelm and a sense of whatever's loudest is screaming at you. That's going to get your attention. It feels like time is short, like you don't have as much time. And of course, you have the same time that everyone else has, the same actual seconds being measured and hours and minutes. And yet some people seem to relate with their time in such a way where they get a different return than others. And so it feels like it's about time. If I just had more time, but it clearly isn't just about time. Time is just the space that's being measured. And the other thing I just want to add to start the conversation is if you're in a position of you're overwhelmed by time, it probably means that you have complexity in your life. Now, sometimes complexity is just you got born with complexity. Your life is just hard, like things are happening to you. And it's not fair, but it is. And you're going to have to work harder than most. But in a lot of other cases, the complexity you're navigating is actually because you've been really successful. The reward for doing well is complexity. That's what you get served up. You know, you're at work, you're doing a good job. Guess what? Your job, you get paid more, usually, get a bigger title, which means you're responsible for more. And at that moment, to get frustrated and go like, wait, it shouldn't be that way. Like, okay, I don't actually think that's exactly the way it ought to be. It means that you're in a position of strength to navigate these things, although the complexities might be novel. It might feel like they're so new and different that you're unfamiliar with them. But I think in all these dynamics, the relief that people are craving is a bit of a trap. Because even if you get your relief, you get your vacation from the complexities, if you want to keep progressing in your life, you actually want the complexities. You want the skill to navigate those difficult things. We're at the time of this recording, it's that time of year for the US Open. And I talk about this every year because I love watching pro tennis. And that whole notion of you walk into Arthur Ashe Stadium and above the sign it says, pressure is a privilege. That's what people are experiencing, is that tension, that pressure, whether it's outside in or inside out, whether you're creating it or it's being created for you. That's the dynamic. And the biggest temptation is to say, I have a time problem. And we'll talk about some techniques that can be really helpful if you want to better manage your time, because there's skills that you can deploy there that are really helpful. But if that's all you hear today, you're really missing the gold, because the gold goes far beyond technique to deal with complexity. What's really interesting, I think, is when people get real about what's going on in a given moment. So, for example, let's say you're in the middle of one of those busy days. You had planned out to do life a certain kind of way that day. A bunch of whirlwinds came in. You actually woke up a little tired, so the drift is on. You see little cheap comfort ways to get out of all of the complexity because it just feels overwhelming and you want relief. If that's the scene you're in, there is an opportunity to relate with that scene in such a way that is more honest than you will feel comfortable being honest. If you can somehow get to a place where you're open and curious around how am I contributing to the complexity that I'm in? How might the way I'm relating with my work actually be making the situation harder than it is or than it has to be? How am I getting in my own way? And as you get more curious about that, then you'll not just see how you might be indicted, how you're complicit in your problem, but you will also see a pathway out, a pathway that maybe will be more uncomfortable in the short term, but will be far more satisfying as you get more and more into the process. And I hope we get a chance to talk about some of those dynamics because that's, in my experience, where all the gold is.
Yeah, I love that because this is hopefully a both and conversation. It's not an either or. It's not throw out all of your calendars and productivity tips. There's real benefit to those things, but those in a vacuum and those without going further upstream, you'll find insufficient.
We can make a good thing unhelpful. Like any tool you have, you can use poorly.
Sure.
So if you have a tool that could be used to make your life better, awesome. But if you use it to make your life more awful, that's on you, friend. Know what you're doing with the tool. Be honest with it. And I'll speak for myself, and Mitch, you can speak for yourself in this, but it's really fun for how I'm wired to plan things, to have order, to have a mapped out process. I have a lot of whiteboards. I have a lot of things coordinated in my world that help me map out a plan. And I say whiteboards as a metaphor and a real thing. But the point is that these good tools that help organize ideas in my mind can become an end of themselves when they're meant to be instrumental to the projects that I'm working on. And if you're in that boat, then guess what? This good thing just became a bad thing. It got in the way. And it doesn't have to be that. You can do it a lot of different ways. You could be like, oh, I don't need all these extraneous things. And I just go straight to the effort. And you might be foolish to do that because you don't prepare in such a way that you're set up. So what is that Goldilocks space where you have enough, but not too much? And relate with it that's in alignment with how you're wired, as well as how you're not wired, and you're getting into an uncomfortable position in order to get the most from it. In all cases, the requisite is that you're awake. You're awake to what's actually going on so that you can bring appropriate priority to the thing at hand.
Would it be helpful to talk about maybe some of these solutions that people have used or could leverage?
Yeah, so one of the more underutilized solutions I think that are out there right now, if I say the phrase time blocking, a lot of people go, oh, I know what time blocking is. I do that, right? I have a calendar. And I have found that if you think about who is putting what on your calendar, let's just look at a calendar for a second. Depending on the kind of work that you do, for many of the listeners out there, you're putting things on your calendar and other people are laying claim to your time on your calendar. And it could be meetings, collaborative work. It could be good intentions. I'm going to work out at that time, or I'm going to go get flowers for my wife, or whatever your thing is that and you've time blocked it, you put it on, I'm going to go spend those 20 minutes and do that good work. And then life happens, right? It's like you have these great plans and you map it all out. And then it's really tempting to go, I'm just going to stuff my day with more responsibilities, get as far as I can. And whatever doesn't happen, I still achieve some things. I'm going to call it a win. And I'm going to kick everything to a false deadline tomorrow and another false deadline the next day, and another false deadline the next day. And all those efforts are not really efforts. It's really a lot's happening to you. And it's feels like an irresponsible strategy to say, I have to have a perfect performance for 8 to 10 hours to actually get all these things accomplished. I think it'd be more responsible to say, let's list out all the things that I say I'm going to do. Let's estimate time per task of what it's going to take to it. And let's actually find it in my day, but don't time block like next week. Time block tomorrow. Like one day is often about as far, at least for me, that I can get with my time blocking. Because now in real time, I can account for things that I didn't anticipate. Storms are a little closer. They're brewing. I can see them a little more upfront. I'm less surprised. There still are surprises, but I'm less surprised than I would be normally. And an exercise of time blocking can be really helpful. So one tool that I use is called Sunsama, Sunsama. And what I love about how I use Sensama, and I think a lot of best practices with Sensama, they do this. It's not your calendar and it's not your task list. You go to your calendar and your task list and you actually populate your committed time block for the next day based on reality and the amount of time it's going to take to do the things you're going to do. And it's very humbling. You realize very quickly, like this big list, I'm going to take a little out of it if I'm successful. But you got to arrange your mindset if you wanted to take advantage of this as that's winning, actually. It's humbling, but it's winning. And you do that consistently and you'll move plenty of projects forward, like at rapid pace. What you won't do if you skip that kind of thing is you'll just basically be in a state of overwhelm where you're responsible for everything every day. And you often feel like a failure, like you're really not taking any ground. And I think some of the psychological dynamics as well as the practical dynamics of attributing like budgeting time and energy for things, even like timing of your day, like you probably have more energy when your battery's full than the end of your day when you drifted and entropy's kicked in. So those kinds of things, they're a skill. Learning how to use it, like a tool like Sensama, or whether you do pencil and paper, however you do it, that's a really resourceful technique. And the technique will take you only as far as a technique can take you. If you're clever, you can ruin a good technique pretty easily.
Oh, definitely. And I think that a lot of people think simply of the concrete, in quotes, benefits of, okay, I'm going to get all of these things done that much faster or whatever. But they don't realize if you just leave it at that and you don't bring that kind of curiosity and honesty to it as well, then you're going to fall short or miss out on like the bigger picture benefits of the humility that can come with it. The actual like reality check that will hopefully inform what you're committing to in the future or what you're saying no to in the future, or like your very own realistic limitations.
Or even feeling indicted. Like before we started recording today, we were talking about a member of our MWOD community, Maurizio, who is an old time, like he's an OG. He's been around the community for a long time and he really understands what we're up to. But probably his greatest asset is his honesty. I think sometimes we can get a little Pollyanna with our productivity where we think, oh, I'm doing great if I'm exhaustive in listing everything and I'm going to get it all done and watch me go. I'm really going to go for it. And you contrast that with Maurizio, and the way Maurizio relates with things is he looks square-faced to the thing at hand, the thing that he's responsible to go do. And he'll be honest. Sometimes it's, I can't wait to go do it. Other times it's, I hate this. I have no interest in doing this whatsoever. This is terrible. I don't want to do it. Damn you, whoever told me to do it. But I'm on the hook. I said I'm going to do it, and fine. And off he goes. But what I can trust with Maurizio is he does the thing. He acknowledges his feelings about the thing. He's real about it. And part of that is a huge benefit because now he's like, I need to bring disproportionate energy to the thing. It's not just going to happen. It's only going to happen if I show up to the thing. And oftentimes he's very reflective on the other side of the thing and he gets a lot done. He's very productive. He's very thankful. But in advance, he's honest. And the truth is, if you're going to do something that's hard, it's normal to feel grumpy about it. That's just part of the deal. And it's also in proportion to how great you're going to feel on the other side of the hard thing. So all these things, they have huge relationships to our productivity interests, these common mistakes that we make. So to your point, whether it's multitasking or you're creating an overstuffed to-do list, or you do cool time hacks like I'm describing, or maybe you like the whipping boy approach where you just, I'm going to beat myself up for what I did or didn't do. And maybe that'll motivate me to do the next thing. I'm reminded of the theater that happens in sports where I'll speak for myself on this. So let's say hypothetically I'm playing pickleball, and let's say hypothetically I miss a shot, that there's actually a social norm that my job is to hit my paddle against myself and get angry and demonstrative and exhale. And there's varying thoughts on those dynamics. I would argue the people that perform the best over time actually are very reserved. They don't have those kind of demonstrative explosions. They contain themselves. They designify those feelings and they move on to the next thing. And this idea of self-shaming as a means to move yourself forward, I actually think it might give you some short-term bump, but I don't think it gives you a long-term focus and motivation. You see this with elite athletes, the best of the best, not elite only, but the best of the best, they tend to be pretty famous for even keel and a neutral, relaxed, what Tim Galloway calls a relaxed focus. It's not that they're not focused. They bring intensity, but they don't bring drama unnecessarily.
Yeah, I can definitely see those things playing out in my life. And related to that, I think it's the not just performative for those that might be viewing or watching you from the outside, but like to justify things for ourselves or to make ourselves feel better. That's what I find myself doing more often than not. And along these lines of like corrupting a good thing, or like we were saying at the beginning, any tool could be misused. Like, what are some of the ways in which these tools or techniques or very resourceful things can often go awry? When do we see that?
Yeah, I think it's when we take our eye off of what we're doing the thing for in the first place. And there's, like, for going back to time blocking for a second, why are we time blocking? What are you trying to accomplish? If it's some general vague sense of so I can be more productive, that'll get you only so far. I think it's actually just to be honest. It's to do the very unsexy work of budgeting, to saying I'm going to give time and energy to a thing in a very measured way relative to my prioritization in the next 12 hours. That's really it. That's the exercise. And to transparently look at reality and plan accordingly. And this is why, in contrast, filling your to-do list with an unreasonable amount of things that you think you're going to get done in the day as a means to go, I'm so overwhelmed, that'll motivate me, therefore I'll go forward and get more done. It just doesn't sustain. It ends up breaking down. You're too ambitious, or more honestly, you're just delusional. You're not actually going to be able to get that much done. By playing that little game, you're actually really putting yourself at a deficit. You will get so much further with consistent, modest execution. And that requires a steady hand. That requires, I get to our point earlier, like it's just humbling to realize I actually don't get a lot done in the day. I have 2 to 4 hours of really significant work a day. And the rest is trappings around that work, setting up and responding and setting up tomorrow. So this is one of the reasons why we're such big fans of guys like James Clear and his work around habit, because it shrinks things down to a very humble, manageable here and now. What am I doing here and now for the next right thing for me to go do here and now again? And if I can be persistent with that, I can do what, like Cal Newport calls, what does he call, a disciple of depth in a shallow world? Like the idea of I'm going to get that deep work access that to be honest, most people who talk about deep work don't actually do deep work. Because in truth, it's a very uncomfortable thing to do deep work. Very uncomfortable.
Yeah. I think that's part of the maybe challenge that I've experienced, is that I'm expecting these things to be the solution. And then when I find that this isn't some magical solution, or that it's not easy somehow by implementing some new tool or app or strategy, that I'll abandon it. Or I try to keep it novel and interesting, and I'm banking so much on the motivation that should come from this thing that I will manipulate it to keep it motivating. I'll write in all of the tiny micro tasks just so I can check them off to keep that motivation feeling good, versus the reveal, like we said, not just of the humility, but also sometimes it's just important to grow this muscle of doing things like Mauricio when I don't want to, or when I'm feeling the resistance, or showing up and actually producing even when I'm not motivated or excited about it. That's the muscle that I'm building in the macro. I'm not just trying to get better at a technique. And that's when I find these things fall flat for me.
Yeah, I love that, Mitch. And I think the Maurizio example is a really helpful one, especially if you overlay this with how we do it at MWOD with CREDO. So for those who are unfamiliar, we've done a whole bunch of conversation on this. There's some great episodes to go check out on CREDO. But in broad strokes, it's just a recognition that there are stages to commitment. There's stages to change. If you want to see change happen in your life, very predictably, CREDO play out universally everywhere you go all the time. And the CRE is located in the micro. The DNO is located in the macro. I'll explain what that means in a second, but here's how it works. You start by you commit to something. You say you're going to go do something. Great. Good for you. Get the tools. Get all the stuff. Make your path. You want to learn the trombone? Open up the YouTube. Buy the trombone. Sit down. Get going. Here we go. Super exciting. And you've done nothing yet. Until you blow the horn, there's no trombone in your life. You're not actually a trombone player, right? So commit, critical, doesn't, until you commit, you haven't started. So important, but not the whole story. That's stage one. Stage two is releasing on your preference. It's the Maurizio moment. It's that sense of, I don't want to do the thing that I committed to do. I hate you for telling me to do this. And that's what Maurizio's saying to himself. I'm mad at me that I said I was going to go do this, but here I am. I'm doing it anyways. That's critical second step of releasing on your preferences in the moment you don't want to keep your commitment to yourself is so good. We've talked about how this Huberman's acknowledgement that you grow your anterior midcingulate cortex. There's biological, neurological stuff going on in your physical body that you benefit from simply by choosing to do the thing you don't want to do. That's good for you. So that's the second stage, is you releasing your preference. The third is in some moments, and I've even seen Maurizio get to this place, you actually hug the cactus voluntarily. You embrace it. You're like, I'm in. This is good. I'm miserable and I want it. I hug the uncomfortable voluntary discomfort thing that's the discipline, the structure that's going to get me to the outcome I'm seeking. And some days you're going to show up and you're living life in release. And other days you're living life in embrace. Even with the same, like yesterday with one effort, it was like easy, seemingly. I'm hugging the cactus. Let's get after it. The next day, it's taking everything in me to keep my word to myself. But that commit, release, embrace, CRE of CREDO, that happens all the time, all the time. It's very high order. I'm going to take on this project. I'm going to buy the software. I get into it. The software is really complicated. I don't know how to do this. I don't want to do it. I'm going to put it aside and say I'm doing it. You're not releasing. You're still stuck in the commitment stage. And you're not even that committed anymore. So getting through these three stages, what that does, when you locate it in one area, you can now zoom out, macro, and start going, if I can do this in one spot, where else can I do this? And you begin to define the areas, CRED, define the areas where that can happen and own it with your behavior, which is deploying commit, release, embrace again. So you expand out, you start building a bigger kingdom for yourself of awesome simply by doing the hard thing in new areas. And you get back to commit, release, embrace. It's that simple. It's just very hard to do over and over again every 24 hours. But the people who do, the people who build some modest contribution to this CREDO effort, this acknowledgement that we all as humans relate with things in very complicated ways, you can make sense of what you're experiencing and you can make the right choice on how to move forward. And if you do that, one day at a time, over and over again, maybe one day is too much. 1 hour at a time, one morning at a time, one end of day at a time. Like, it sounds so dumb, but when I go to bed at night, before I go to bed, if I fill up my water, my big jug of water, that I'm holding up in this YouTube video, and I actually set up my coffee, my drip coffee thingamajig all set up, before I go to bed, I have a better day the next day. That's weird. Do I really need, like, when I get up in the morning, if I make my bed, I have a better day. What's that about? It's not just about making beds and making coffee. It's actually about putting yourself in a position of, I don't feel like I'll just set up the coffee in the morning. I'll fill up the water. Why am I making the bed? I'm just going to mess it up later. Like you're kind of missing the point. Somewhere it's fitting in CREDO for you, however micro a thing. And as James Clear says, every time you make those choices, you're making a vote on the person you say you want to become. And that's what we're doing. Yes, deploy the tips and tricks. Yes, if you don't know them yet, go find Andrew Hartman and join Time Boss and do a thing. And it's all awesome, but it's necessary, but insufficient. If you don't bring a wholehearted relationship, understanding how these things work consistently, you're going to be left frustrated. And we want you to see satisfaction, which is why we actually encourage people to build their whole life around these ideas. And when they do, I think they get the benefits to come.
Like most things, it's not an arrival. It's not cool. I'm all of a sudden productive now and it's smooth sailing, or I now have agency. Great. It takes this kind of sustained tension, this sustained effort, this practice. And there's constant course corrections happening all the time. I find that we're talking about simplicity and complexity and how those things relate. But I find that as my systems, as I become more proficient in something, or as I become more sophisticated in these certain things, equally, I also become more sophisticated and better at my own self-deceit. I'll slip into productive procrastination, or I'll fill my days with running all my systems because running the systems feels like I'm being productive and efficient when I'm actually not getting all of the work done that I know, is highest and best. So I'm curious, like, from your perspective and your experience, like, how do we begin to suss out and diagnose when those things are shifting towards that self-deceit or becoming no longer helpful or actually working against us?
Yeah. I find the best way to quickly discover what's actually going on is the use of abstinence, like removing everything. It sounds like someone, a priest who's abstaining from sex or something. But even though that is kind of one example, that in an extreme, you don't have to go to that extreme to do what I'm describing. All I'm saying is you'll very quickly strip back what's actually going on for you simply by stopping something, like full force. You're going to find out where you're at with the thing. So let me give a specific example. Let's say you are trying to figure out why you're not productive in the morning. Like you've decided, I'm going to do deep work from 8 a.m. to 9:30, whatever your thing is. And you're like, that's what I think a lot about because I'm writing a book right now and it connects to that. So I create that space. And I went through this exercise of going, okay, so why am I so easily distracted by emails, or I'm so easily distracted by Tammy will walk in, or I'm so easily distracted by. What I started to realize was like, I was actually looking for distraction, but I couldn't see that I was looking for those distractions. What I felt was frustration. Like, I'm not getting the thing done, So what abstaining was actually banning something from my office. Something had to leave my office and was not welcome here anymore. And what I banned were two things. My phone had to go in another room, and no communication apps open on my computer. Sounds like silly, maybe, but here's what I quickly discovered. I was complicit in my problem. What I really wanted, if I was honest, was I wanted to have work done. I didn't want to do the work. And it felt like if I planned the work, I was gesturing towards the work being done. I could scratch that itch a little bit. But based on my real behavior, leaving comm apps open and my phone, like I was guaranteeing, I was inviting, I was saying like, I'm an alcoholic, let's go to the liquor store and I won't drink. It was ridiculous. And the instant reveal was, oh, this is it. This is the path forward. Now, to be clear, I'm confident. I'm so skilled at finding distraction. This new technique that I'm deploying of leaving my phone and my phone apps done, I could find some clever way to be complicit again. I'm so conniving. I'm so self-deceived. So I don't want to pretend like this technique is the only thing. But the abstaining from the phone, abstaining from the comm apps might look like kind of, dude, just be a little disciplined. Just don't open up the app. Just don't check your phone. I'll just say for myself, in a humiliated fashion, I'm not strong enough for that. I've only been working my whole life around this system for, 6 years straight without a break. I'm just a beginner. Like, it just takes time to be the kind of person who can not do that, at least for me. So if you're like 6 days into this, why would you think that you're going to be that strong? It's crazy town. But it requires abstaining. So, you have trouble scrolling on social and you don't in bed, ban your phone from your bed and delete all your social apps. You go, oh, it's crazy. No, it's committed. It's releasing on your preferences. It's hugging the cactus. And you'll quickly discover how complicit you are in your own lack of productivity. Some people do it with their physical space. Like they literally will move all the stuff around them out. And they're just left in an austere environment. My friend Ann Hanley does this with her writing, where she lives. She works out in a writing shed, and no internet out there. No, it's like typewriter. Smart, super smart. I still have internet piped into here. That'd be a great way for me to be clever with my deep work. So it's those kinds of things. Abstain from the possibility, and you're going to find yourself very uncomfortable, but you'll also find yourself far closer to the thing that you say you want. And you get to decide, maybe you don't really want the thing. And if you don't really want the thing, be honest about it. Stop beating yourself up. Just say, I don't want to write the book. I don't want to get in shape. That's going to get you closer, because if that's true, if you actually want the book and you actually want to be in shape and you say, I clearly don't want to, and I'm going to give up on it, you will feel worse and worse. And that might actually get you to rock bottom, as the folks in recovery like to tell us, and you might actually see change happen. But to give the feeling of change, that is terrible, because you're not changing. You're still the same person. This gets you closer to the change you say you seek. And it's a magic trick. It's a miracle. It's always uncomfortable. And if it doesn't feel that way, you're doing it wrong.
There's so many people that have spoken into this that I'm thinking about. And I think it all comes down to, how else would you have had that reveal without that kind of abstinence or that seemingly extreme step of moving your phone into the other room? The times that I take my phone out, place it on my night, that's part of my commitments is after my workout in the morning, before the kids leave for school, I have my phone on my nightstand away from me. And then same thing after work, before they go to bed, on my nightstand. And when I started doing this, I can't tell you how many phantom vibrations or reaches for the pocket or wallet, phone, whatever checks I did. And you don't realize until you do something like that, like you said, how complicit you are with these things. But what that does is not just eliminate the phone and the distraction, it also helps me to begin to engage and navigate and relate differently with this inner dialogue that's going on of, oh no, I need that to be productive, or, oh wow, why am I looking for some kind of amusement or distraction from the thing that I say is highest and best and most important, spending time with my kids? What is it about my life that I've gotten to this point where I can't sit and play a board game with my kids without reaching for my phone or looking for some out? My tolerance for stillness or presence has gone way down, but I hadn't had an opportunity to have that reveal before I took a step like that. It just strikes me how resourceful some of these practices can be and how revealing they can be, not just for the immediate productivity or whatever that it enables, but really the ongoing benefit of understanding how you've been relating with this thing or what's really upstream that you've been avoiding or chasing.
Yeah, to be really clear, and probably to give credit where credit's due, what we're actually describing is non-physical disciplines to transform who we are becoming, which in religious language, people say spiritual disciplines in order to become. And as soon as you say spiritual disciplines, the non-religious folks kind of go, oh. Dallas Willard said all we mean is non-physical. The stuff that is ethereal, it's it's real. You love somebody, you're like, where's the love? It's real. But you hate somebody, it's real. You're feeling it. And all those things are very spiritual, right? So the idea of fasting from food, this is what the spiritual discipline of fasting is really about. It's actually experiencing the feeling of not getting what you want and deciding if the thing you're doing it for is important enough to give that thing up. So people do this around their relationship with God, and they say, I'm going to give up food for a time so that I can get real with myself. Do I want God as much as I want this cheeseburger? And they start transforming themselves. They're cooperating with this God of theirs and saying, I'm going to put you first. And when we talk about prioritization, why couldn't we take a page from their playbook and apply it in the context of everyday life? It seems to me we can't. And this is why it's not just that. In some cases, some people listening, they're just terrible at having a good time. They're terrible at fun. So you need to take on a different discipline. It might be to actually throw a party and spend some money and see how that feels. Because you're miserly and you need to be generous. And all these things, they're all page books from pages of scripture, of the modeling of this Jesus person. for those who look at that tradition. And there's other traditions that have other things that gain similar insights. But I would really encourage folks to see this as a much higher order thing. This isn't just about biohacking your body to be more productive. This is far more deeply human activities. And these are just millennia old practices that people have used in order to get real about what's going on so that they can decide if they're really after it or not.
And I think it would be a misnomer to say this is a productivity conversation or, just simply a generative kind of what can we generate an output. Because really it's about like just being more strong and awake for love's sake, like we're talking about.
It's like transformation. It's
exactly.
It's really, yeah, that's right.
Because productivity in and of itself, like you were just saying, can often be one of those things that is actually sabotaging a flourishing life. If we're just being a slave to the to-do list or the calendar without looking up and seeing where we're at, that's not a full life. There's so many different ways we could have taken this conversation. There's so much more left to be explored in this. But as we think about this audience, the people listening right now, this conversation, is there anything that we've left unturned or would be a good thing to wrap this conversation up on if someone could take something away?
Yeah, I think it's just important to find means by which you can be more honest with yourself about what's really going on. And then once you see with clarity, can you find your way forward to one single step that makes sense to you that's worth experimenting with? And you don't need to join a community to do that. You can do that on your own. People do this all the time. I think it's good, actually, for people to do it on their own to find their way forward. And if you think a community would serve you, and I think it would, you should find one. And it'd be great if it was Men and Women of Discomfort, but it's not. Find another community that would help you get this dynamic in play in your real life. And it's funny, like as I was thinking about this, I didn't anticipate talking about spiritual disciplines as it relates to the work that we do, but it's very much it's just spiritual discipline, the work that we do. For some people who are listening to this, they're like, there actually are some deeply spiritual things here. And maybe you need to like go to church or something. Like maybe you need to find your way into that kind of a community. Maybe there's an organization I used to be a part of called Alpha. Maybe go do an Alpha course. Maybe that, if you don't know what that is, look up alphausa.org if you're in the US, or alpha.org internationally. But there's so many fun ways to find your way forward in these deeply spiritual, overtly spiritual things. But don't ever forget they're also deeply grounded in the physical, like the embodied life. And in that regard, I don't have a better space than Men and Women of Discomfort to find folks around you who want to move forward together in these kinds of things. We'd love to get to know you and be in that conversation. But at the least, if you're all by yourself, you don't want to get involved in this crazy stuff with other people. I get it. That's what I would say. Get real, and then honor the fact that committing, releasing your preference is normal. And then to get to the place of full embrace, like that flow state place, those are the steps that are inherently built in to the human experience if you want to see this kind of transformation.
And I think one of the reasons that people have found so much success, especially as a part of the Men and Women of Discomfort community, is because we have discomfort on the door. Like it's the name's on the door, right, like you like to say. So people come in expecting, okay, this is going to be hard. This is going to be uncomfortable. And I often find that like that just in and of itself sets people up for success. Whereas if we come into any of these things, and we're talking about Jesus too, and he explicitly spells out like this life is hard. Don't expect, cool, I'm going to follow you and everything's going to be easy.
That's right.
That's not how it works. Whether you participate with us here or you want to explore another community or go in this alone for a little bit, just expect it to be challenging. And that's like a good thing. Lean into that voluntary discomfort, because that's where all the gold is.
Yeah. And as you do, tell us. We'd love to hear. We'd love for you to reflect back a little bit about what you're discovering along the way. Where are we crazy? Where are we wrong? How can we learn from you in that process? We'd be so grateful if you'd reach out and let us know.
We got details in the show notes, or just head over to MWOD.io. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, Dane.
Thanks, Mitch.
Men and Women of Discomfort is our membership community, and we are open to everyone. But keep in mind, our tagline is "It's probably not for you." If we're wrong about that, or if you want to find out for yourself, you can find us at MWOD